This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
There are always conditions on affection and love. Our behavior dictates a range of emotion from other people on how they react to us. A fatal flaw in human beings is their judgment and reactions of emotions from those with whom they interact. In a perfect world, the slate would be cleaned every time we walk in the door. A fresh start where all transgressions have been forgotten and not only forgiven. No grudges and only pure love to elevate even the most sullen of spirits. This divine quality in human beings is the true unicorn. The holy grail of the human experience can be found in unconditional love. So far, only our furry four-legged friends have been able to deliver this gift. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Felice, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new comments, and now you can join. And of course, follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to. On this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome a very special guest from Operation K9 Beethoven, and that's Brian Reyngoudt. See, I got the name right.
Yes, did.
I got the name right. And that's a difficult, there's a lot of consonants in there. But we're going to talk about this new form of therapy because it's relatively new. But we all know the power of animals. Power of animals, unconditional love. And we're going to get into such an amazing story. And it comes from a place of true understanding, I would have to say. Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police or podcasters, but we do trust Toyota of Hackensack, so go to toyotahackensack.com and let them find you a car. So, Brian, having watched a couple of our episodes, we take a question from our audience every week. This question comes from LED Skin TF. Okay. It says, what is something you wish you told somebody that you didn't, but by the time you got around to telling them, it was too late?
Let's go for another beer, Dad.
It's a tough one, you know?
Or a hot dog.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I think that would, it's those times of regrets because you never know when tomorrow's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
Your father did he leave suddenly, or was there a...
No, he was sick for many, many years.
He was sick for many years?
22 years he was sick. No, he was a veteran in Vietnam, 68, 69, three-time Purple Heart. MS, diagnosed at 54, 55. Yeah. It was slow progression, and then it obviously progressed as the years and days and weeks and months went by. And, so miss him dearly.
Yeah, and it's always that last moment that you never get a chance to have. Even if you had a little bit of warning, such as sounds like what you had with your father, there's always that last moment or that last thing that you want to say. For me, it's obviously recent tragedies with Mike, him and I spent a lot of time together. And I think we've said everything that we wanted to say to each other. Not all good, not all bad. Yeah. One of the things that we did do with each other on a regular basis is tell each other that we love them. And especially after his death, I made it a point to tell people who I care about, hey, I love you, brother. Hey, I love you, sister. Hug my kids a little tighter. And always in preparation for that inevitability that someday we are not going to wake up. We're going to wake up dead. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So don't ever take today for granted because tomorrow's never promised.
I agree.
So I think that's the crux of that question. And LED Skin TF, thank you for sending that question in. So keep sending in your questions, and we will try to get them on the air. So, Brian, I know a little bit about you. I can't say I know a whole lot. We've been in contact with each other for a long time.
Couple months.
You reached out to us, and you told me about this organization, and I am a dog person because cats are assholes, and I'm sorry to any cat people out there, but cats are assholes. And the main thing that people love about dogs versus cats, see, a cat will run around the house with impunity and think that they are God, where a dog sees you as God.
Yes.
And when you look at something with reverence like a dog looks at you, and anybody who's ever experienced coming home, you could walk out to put the garbage out. Dog will come in and be happy to see you.
Yeah.
So once I hear dogs, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't care what comes, because it's. I wish I could get a dog to talk, because I do the suffering of dogs.
Some dogs do talk.
Yeah, they do.
The Huskies do, they say I love you, or, some of them do.
My dog will talk when it wants belly rubs. That's pretty much what it is. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit how you grew up and where you grew up?
So I grew up in Bergen County, Hasbrouck Heights, New Jersey. Born and raised there. And that's where I grew up. And, we've lived in the same house my whole life. And my father was going into the nursing home at Paramus Veterans Home. And
from the very beginning? From the very beginning of your life?
No. Many years.
Okay.
I would say 2019, 2020.
Oh, okay. So
I grew up in the same house pretty much my whole life. And so, we weren't sure what we were going to do with the house. Or were we going to sell it? Is Mom going to want to sell it?
You weren't living there at the time?
No, I wasn't living there. I was living in Bayonne, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And so the decision finally came that Mom decided that, and Dad decided that they would sell the house. And Mom would, go into an apartment complex or something. Kind of like downsize.
Downsize, of course.
Too much house for her. My brother and I were out of the house at that point, So what's the point of having that house?
Your father spent I'm sure he spent his life filling that house up, trying to make it as comfortable as possible, filling it up with this and that, making sure they have this and that. And then the kids leave. How many brothers and sisters?
Just one older brother, yeah.
You have one older brother. So then the kids go their own way, start their own life. And then you take a look around and you go, I got this. What am I doing now? There's no need to fill it up. A lot of the joy has left, so you got to find something else.
Yeah.
You got to find something else. So when as you're growing up, you said your father was a Vietnam vet. I know so my generation their fathers were Vietnam era.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of the parents there, they didn't have the help as far as post-traumatic stress and things like that. So there's a whole generation of kids out there whose parents really never engaged with them all that much, who were a little closed off for good reason. They saw some awful shit over there. Was that your experience with your father?
Absolutely not. No, he loved us unconditionally. He would do anything for us. And he would do anything for his fellow human being. He was a very giving person, and he would take the shirt off his back and give you his last $5 in his wallet. He was very, very giving.
But the war had to affect him somehow.
Yeah,
what did he do? Was he an Army?
He was a Marine.
He was a Marine.
He was a Marine, yeah. So, he didn't talk about it all that much. And that generation typically doesn't really talk about it that much. But he would talk to me and my brother about certain things, and we would never ask him questions, but he would talk about it here and there. But no, he didn't turn us away at all. He was a great father.
So where did he fight in the war?
Not 100% sure.
You got to start doing some research on it now.
I have seen his DD-214, and I've read it here and there because I needed it for something. But I actually had a fellow Marine look at it because I didn't understand it at all. This thing is to me, it's a foreign language, And he looked at it and he says, "Wow, your father was a badass."
Well, so the records for your father in Vietnam, there was and I know this from personal experience, there was a fire in the National Archives in a certain section that most of the D's or the A's through the J's got destroyed because I would look for my grandfather's records, and so they had to recreate them because of this big fire.
Yeah.
There's an amazing amount of resources out there if you are willing to go look them up. You can look in the National Archives. It's $20 will get you whatever you want, and you'll be able to find out where he was, what medals he got, everything that he did. Do you know where? You don't know where he fought at all?
Not 100% sure. Yeah. Like I said, I have his DD-214. I haven't really looked at it in quite some time. I needed it to join the auxiliary for the VFW in Saddlebrook, New Jersey, and I kind of just took it and I showed them proof,
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, like I said, I had one person look at it, and they said it was he was a badass,
Well, what made him such a badass?
All the awards that he had. He had a lot of awards, not only the three Purple Hearts, but he had a bunch of other stuff. Like I said, to me, is a foreign language.
And you never saw any of these wounds or anything that he had during the war?
He was, shot in the arm, shrapnel in the head, shrapnel all over throughout his body. But he didn't have physical wounds, like where you can see it, you know. But you know, you could tell if he was watching a certain movie, you know, going down that road, Full Metal Jacket, certain movies you could see.
Especially being a Marine.
Yeah, you could see certain things that he would you know move or you know jump or just walk out of the room.
Because I've had Marine Vietnam vets in here. Actually, the one brought an inert grenade into the studio, and I remember him putting it on the table and going, "Is that thing live?" That's a Marine,
Yeah.
and he would tell me Full Metal Jacket is probably the most realistic movie ever made when it comes to the Paris
That's
Island
exactly what my father always said.
Yeah.
That it was the most real movie that's out there.
portion. Well, I think Arlie Ermy really brought that to life because he had been there and he'd done that.
Yeah.
And people respect that. Like you can't fake that.
No, absolutely.
I don't care how good of an actor you are.
You can't fake it.
Yeah.
You got to be it. You know.
So, did you ever think about joining the military?
No, my father, you know, he didn't really want that for us. He did it so we wouldn't have to do it. That's exactly what he would say. Join the Coast Guard. Like,
Yeah.
you know. But no, he just did not want for that for me or my brother, and that's fine. You know, he said I did it so that you guys don't have to do it.
I remember I tried to join the Marines in '93, and my grandfather, who was still alive, my grandfather hated officers. He could not stand officers. I remember him getting so mad at me when he found out. He said, "You're supposed to go to college. You're not supposed to go into." I go to the military because I didn't have anywhere else to go. And I don't think the older generation, especially somebody who's been through it, because it's very romanticized. The military. It is very romanticized, but it's trauma. It's trauma after trauma after trauma. Unless you're a desk jockey, and I got to be honest with you, I don't know too many people who join the military to be a desk jockey. It's sort of just where they're put.
Yeah, yeah.
But Vietnam, it seemed like, and I know the chaotic times. I've talked to enough people. I know the chaotic times of Vietnam. You know, soldiers coming home, not being received very, very warmly. Did he ever have any of those experiences that you know of?
Yeah, he had mixed. He had bad experiences, and then he had good experiences. Like one story is that he went to the DMV to get his license, and he's in his dress blues, and the instructor comes in and says, "You just get home." And my father said, "Well, not too long ago, recently I did, yes." "Well, were you driving out there?" He goes, "Yeah, trucks, tanks, this, that, the other thing." "Why are you wasting my time? But most importantly, why are you wasting your time? You pass. Go get your license."
There are some perks.
Yeah, so he experienced both ends of the stick on that, you know, the bad and the good. And
I never understood the pacifist portion of it. I understand nobody wants war. I get that. I understand that. But why are you going to be mad at somebody who did go fight?
I'll never understand why.
It doesn't.
Like,
it doesn't
make
compute with
sense.
me.
It doesn't. I mean, we live in the greatest country in the whole wide world.
You know,
know,
you can
it's-
say to that person, say, "I really don't believe in violence." You know, talk to me. You know, that was a problem. There was no open communication.
Not back then.
Yeah.
You know, they hated that war. You know, and a lot of people did. But I'll never understand it. You know, and it's sickening to me that generation had to go through what they went through.
We're starting to see it now because it was said very, very well, and I think it was said by Joe Rogan. He said, "Hard people create good times. Good times create soft people. Soft people create bad times." And when things get too soft, when somebody who isn't drafted or refuses to go to the draft, they become a little softer. And they don't know the true realities of things. When you know the true reality of something, you know the good and you know the bad. But somebody who only knows one side, their perspective, God, it's just a foreign world to me. Now, I get it. You don't want to go to war. I understand that. I don't really have an issue with that. The issue I have is when somebody who did do that comes home and then you treat them poorly.
And they get no respect.
So I used to work for a guy who was in... He was actually in Saigon in '63. Vietnam War didn't officially start till '65, so he wasn't there. Whenever somebody was killed, the mail was always routed through Texas, and he died in a training accident in Texas. That was the official story. So he was there before. So he also was there when the Vietnam War started. And when he came home, a girl tried to spit on him, and he punched a girl right in the face. Now, you're taking somebody who just saw some of the worst in humanity. You're bringing them back to the States. They're a little jacked up, and then you agitate them? Not a smart move.
Absolutely.
There was no human resources back then.
And, you know, we have a lot of human resources now, but I don't think we have enough.
We never can have enough.
We always need it.
Yeah.
Always need it.
You need to respect people that are willing to go give their life. My good friend Mike DePalma was over in Iraq, and he was in Baghdad, and he saw some. He was a captain in the army, and he saw some stuff, and he's told me a little bit about it. It's the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, they're starting a blank check.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing, and they're going and they're fighting for our freedom. They're fighting for our country. And how can you not have respect for that?
So you saw your father giving you love. All right, he gave you the shirt off your back stuff. Now, switching gears a little bit, did you have dogs growing up?
Absolutely.
Okay, and what did you see in dogs that sort of drew you to them?
Just the unconditional love. You're not feeling well, they're right at your side.
They're incredibly empathetic.
Very empathetic, and they'll lay with you, they'll play with you, and they're just loving creatures, and they're there for you when you're not feeling all that great, especially when you're sick,
And I think that speaks to a lot, because somebody who feels unconditional love like that of a dog, it's extraordinarily difficult to leave or to get into that bad place too far, knowing that at least somebody loves you.
Yeah.
Even if it's a furry four-legged friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just want love back.
Yep.
They want to be hugged. They want to be, petted. They want to be kissed. They want to be cuddled. They just want love back. I see it all the time when we go to, veterans homes, rehab centers, hospitals, and we have a pet therapy program. And the residents there don't know my name, but they know the dog's name.
Of course.
And,
you're funny you say that. So in my neighborhood, I couldn't tell you what the person down the street's name is, but I'll tell you the name of their dog.
Exactly.
Because I'm walking my dog over there, and you'll hear him call the dog's name.
Yeah.
And then you start knowing the dog, and that's kind of how everything just comes alive. But even when I'm working my day job, and I'm working in a particular area, there's always the same people walking their dogs. I know the dogs' names. I couldn't tell you what that person's name is.
Same where I work, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I don't know these women and these men's names, but I know the dog's name, and I see them all the time throughout the course of the day. Mm-hmm. And I bring them treats. I bring them little poop bags, like toys, So I don't know the human beings' names, but I do know the dog's names.
Well, conversely to that, I always tell my children this: never trust a person that a dog doesn't like. And conversely to that, never fully trust a person that doesn't like dogs.
Exactly.
And I don't know that seems to be a truism all across the board.
Yeah.
So you've had dogs growing up your whole life, and I just don't see the intersection of how the genesis. I see the intersection, but I don't see the genesis of the intersection where somebody said, hey, maybe dogs will be a good fit.
For my company?
Yeah, for veterans.
So how it all started is that we were selling that house. We had kennels and stuff that we wanted to give away. My brother called someone that he knew. That woman called someone that she knew. And I met this guy, R.P. Cortez, right on LaSalle Avenue in Hasbrouck Heights. And he was there to pick up the kennels. And he pulled up in his truck, and it said K9 Beethoven. And he and I started talking. And he was telling me that Beethoven is a therapy dog, goes to the Actors Guild nursing home in Hackensack, and he brings them here, there, and everywhere else. And I said, well, you know what? After 40 years of marriage...
Not the same dog that the movie was about.
No.
No.
After all these memories that were in this home, my mom's moving on, dad's in the nursing home. She doesn't know what the future holds. And we all grew up with dogs and had dogs our whole life. I said, would you mind bringing Beethoven into the house? Because mom's upset. She's stressed. She doesn't know what's going to go on, after we sell the house. At that point, we did find her an apartment.
And your mother just lost her husband.
Well, my father passed in 2021.
Okay.
So this was 2020.
All right.
And so we brought Beethoven in, and Beethoven sat at her feet, and all my mother did was pet him.
What
And
did
you can see the chain of the from the face go from sad to like happiness. And I always knew dogs can do amazing things.
Right.
And then he and I just became friends. And
Did you ever bring Beethoven over to see your father when he was in the
yes.
nursing home?
So after that, Arpie and I became friends, and he says, I want to go visit your father. And at the time, it was January of 2020. There was an upper respiratory infection going on in that nursing home, which probably was COVID at the time. No one really knew. He says, but I'll make you a promise that your father will be the first person to meet Beethoven when I can get in there. I'm still going through the process of getting a fingerprint.
Oh, so that's the, but there's the other thing too, because you had nursing homes. Well, you're right at the cusp of the lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just the beginning stages of the lockdown. And so in February, he was able to get in there. And he called me up. He said, hey, Brian, where's your father? What unit? What room is he on? I gave him all that information. I said, unfortunately, I can't be there. But I called my father, and I said, hey, you're going to get a special visit today. And he goes, is it you? I said, nope. He goes, oh, shit. I wanted some pasta bajou soup. Right? So about an hour or two goes by, and I call my father, and I says, hey, Dad, how was your special visit? He goes, it was the best wake-up call I ever got. And so my father was the first person to meet Beethoven, and that's when it just kind of like snowballed a little bit, and then he and I became friends and better friends. And
Well, he had this company prior.
yeah, he was just doing little things, like little therapy things here and there. It wasn't, really, he would just take the dog, take Beethoven to here or there, once in a while when he was able to. And he and I just started talking, and then we, partnered up with Bergen County Harley Davidson. We also partnered up with another guy, and it just became Operation K9 Beethoven, helping veterans one paw at a time. And so now we're at, 20 dogs that we've given away to veterans for completely free, no charge to them.
And do those dogs need to go through any special training?
Yeah, so we rescue our dogs. So we work with several rescues, and we rescue them off the streets, euthanasia, kill shelters. We, obviously get their health back. Whatever needs to be done, and then we check their temperament, and then we train them to become psychiatric service dogs.
I got a buddy of mine, Charlie Cifarelli. I don't know if you ever heard of Star the New York Pitbull.
No.
All right, so Star the New York Pitbull. What New York used to do is they used to give dogs, strays or euthanasia dogs, to homeless people. So they give this Pitbull mix to this guy named Lex Stankiewicz. I'll never forget his name. And he's out on the street one day. There's a pit bull. Okay, it does have pit bull in there. And pit bulls are great personal dogs. They're just not very social. Mm-hmm. That's the problem with them. So what had happened was he was having a seizure. He was a drug addict. He was having a seizure. Cops go up to render aid. Now, their job is to preserve life. Their job isn't to preserve animal life. It's to preserve life. And the dog won't let anybody near its owner. So you see this intersection of some tragedy that it's about to strike, right? They have to get to this person who's in medical distress. So the cops shoot the dog, and it's all on video. And the dog's name's Star.
Yep.
So the video is heartbreaking. It's gut-wrenching. They get to the guy. They save his life. The dog goes off, figuring the dog's dead. They shot it straight in the head. Dog goes off. A lot of bad press for the NYPD on that one, so they pretty much put the dog in witness protection. But Charlie, who was a New York kid living in Nebraska at the time, sees this. He always read the New York news, and he says, that dog's not dead. I'm telling you, that dog's not dead. And he's calling up New York. He's calling him up. No, the dog's dead. Dog's dead. Then he got them to say, well, the dog's not dead, but it's probably going to die. And then by the time they find out that the dog's alive, they won't tell anybody where the dog is, because whoever's going to have the dog, it's going to be a PR nightmare for the NYPD. He finds the dog, and how he finds the dog, because they posted a picture, and there was a DOT number on a truck, and he got it. So he figured out the area was from the DOT number on the truck. It's amazing. He goes, he finds it, he gets permission, he goes meets the dog, and what this dog does to him is it pretty much saves his life. It pretty much awakens something in him. That's the power of a dog. And Star hung on until February of 2021. I had Charlie in somewhere around April of 2021, shortly after Star had left this earth, and he wrote a whole book about it. It's called 14th and Second.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing story. But now what Charlie does is he has a nonprofit where he rescues pit bulls. He knows how to work a pit bull, and he's a strong man. So it takes a special type of person to be able to work a pit bull. And these are dogs that are going to get euthanized. He'll get them out of the kill shelters. So again, people will go to great lengths. And if people don't understand what a dog means, let me put it to you this way. Michael Vick. All right? Michael Vick. There are NFL players who kick the shit out of their spouse, who do some horrible things.
Yep.
And maybe they'll go away in jail for a little bit. They'll come back in the NFL, and all is forgiven. Michael Vick's career was ruined because of dogfighting.
Yep.
So if you think about that, the crime against an animal is the worst thing you could possibly do.
And it should be.
Yeah.
It should be. I mean, my brother's got 2 pit bulls. Harley right there. That's a pit bull right there. The white dog.
The white dog there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Harley was 20 minutes away from being euthanized. And we were able to get him and give it to a veteran.
Now, what are the dangers? There's no specific type of dog that you rescue at all?
I mean, we try to get whatever we can get, you know. I mean, it all depends on the veteran's lifestyle as well. I mean, if the veteran is younger and they want more of a dog who's able to do more activities, like we gave a dog away to a veteran who wanted to take it hunting and fishing and walk and run. So we'll try to get a younger dog that would be able to sustain that. And we've had veterans who were older veterans who just want like a lap dog, maybe walking around the block. So we try to pair the human being's lifestyle and then try to pair that with a suitable dog.
How do you vet the people who are candidates for these dogs?
So what we do is they apply to our website at OperationK9Beethoven.com, and we have a process. You got to send all your paperwork in. You need a doctor's note, and then from there we have a phone interview. And then after the phone interview, at that point we kind of know.
A doctor's note for what specifically?
Saying that it would help that individual having a dog who's trained as a psychiatric service dog. And usually it's a letter from a psychiatrist or, primary doctor. And then after that, we have the phone interview. And then after that, we have a home inspection.
Because the vetting process to me is very important. So they tried this in prisons.
Yeah, I've seen that show, yeah.
They tried this
in prisons. For yeah.
But the problem was the prisoners were having sex with the dogs. There were some of them. And God, can you imagine? That's awful. But they were. They're locked up for the rest of their lives. What do they give a shit? So the vetting process wasn't there. And then they figured out a way to get around that. So it didn't really fit in that area. I don't know too many veterans that are that sick-minded. Well, some of them, but I don't think too many of them are that sick-minded. So I was always curious about the vetting process.
Yeah, we go through a process, and we, Google Earth the address. We make sure that they're living in, a nice area. I'm not going to place a dog to a home that I don't feel safe. If I don't want to live there, why am I going to put a dog in there? Mm-hmm. So that's how we do it. And you also form a relationship with this person too. I mean, unfortunately, there has been times that we've had to say no, and the majority of the reasons why we say no is because they already have a dog. So we will not place a dog into a household that already has a dog or another pet, a cat.
Right, because what's the purpose?
Then what's the purpose? This dog is being trained, and that dog that's not trained, that dog that is trained, is going to lose that training.
Yeah.
Trainers say all the time, it's easy to train the dog. It's harder to train the human being, the recipient.
That comes from in my opinion, there's no such thing as a bad dog. There's bad owners. Plenty of them.
Yep.
There's plenty of them. And we've seen this time and time again where a dog will be aggressive or even as something as innocuous as jumpy. My dog is jumpy. And I say it's my fault that the dog's jumpy because every time the dog jumps on me, I scratch the dog. And unfortunately, and so when we were recording this podcast in my house, my dog Mandy, Mike and my dog Mandy loved each other. They absolutely, and he used to call his Saturday girlfriend. And the funny thing is, we just did a fundraiser. You were there.
Yeah.
We just did a fundraiser, and we're cleaning up at the end. And the song "Mandy" comes on.
Barry Manilow.
By Barry Manilow comes on, and I look at Mike's girlfriend Mackie, and I go, Mackie, are you listening to this song? Can you believe this shit? It was just like, kismet or whatever you want to call it. So, has those disqualifiers, other than having another pet, has there ever been something where you just said, this is not going to work?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like what would be a scenario? The key component to any law enforcement officer being the best version of themselves is through education. Sherrie Allsup is a leader in providing that education to police agencies, preparing them for the all too frequent dealings with sexual assault victims.
You've seen Sherrie on episode 169 of the Suffering Podcast. She survived incest and almost daily sexual assault, so she comes from a place of experience and true understanding.
Sherrie has the intelligence, commitment, and compassion to open the eyes of those on the front lines, while providing the tools to effectively deal with a difficult situation. Sherrie's instruction comes from experience and multiple certifications.
Training with Sherrie will offer on-site training, customized schedules, specialized instruction tailored from a victim's perspective.
You are going to hear Sherrie's heart-wrenching but inspiring survivor story. Learn proprietary trauma-informed training techniques. Uncovered victim-centered interview methods while earning continuing education credits according to your state guidelines. To be the best, you must learn from the best. Let Sherrie Allsup guide you through the delicate cases of sexual assault from a victim's point of view.
Be a source of comfort to those victims affected by these traumatic experiences while producing a solid investigation and uncovering details that often go unnoticed.
To find out more or to contact Sherrie Allsup, go to sherrieallsup.com. That's SherrieAllsup.com.
How the house is, it's got to be clean. It can't be a hoarder. It's like, and I say, if I'm not going to want to stay there for one night, why would I want to put a dog in there?
Right. Or the financial means to even feed the dog.
Sometimes it is the financial part of it too. But what we do is, I say this all the time, we all fall down on hard times. And when we give that dog away, we set them up for like a month or two full of food, kennels, bowls, treats, toys, leashes, the whole nine.
So you're not just giving them an animal and saying, oh, now you're on your own.
No.
Yeah.
And see, my goal is to start that Operation K9 Beethoven family, and we want to be a part of their lives for as long as they want to be a part of our lives. Now, there are some that we've said that to, and they've done their due diligence. They did the 30-day period, and we haven't heard from them. And then there's those who call me up and say, hey, everything's going well. And those phone calls I love the best. Mm-hmm. It's not about, I don't want it to sound like I want a pat on the back. It's not. But I want them to know that we're there for them. If they need something, if they're falling down, we can go pick them up and I can bring it to their home, or I can have Amazon deliver it.
Well, that's an important thing. So it's not just the dog itself, it's the aftercare, it's the long care, the long game. Because, I'm sure has there ever been a time you paired a dog with somebody where it just wasn't a good fit? You get them in the house, you set them up with everything, and the person comes back and says, hey, it's not for me.
Yeah, that happened very early on. In the beginning, it was for us because it was the first time that a dog kind of got rejected. Mm-hmm. And so this person basically said, it was great in the beginning and the excitement of it all, but I didn't realize how much time it was going to take care of the dog.
This isn't like a gerbil or a hamster.
And I think she, that person kind of didn't realize the, what it takes to have a dog and the responsibility of it.
Well, what was so much time?
The walking, taking it out, picking up shit. I think the person just felt that it was, it was too much for her to handle, and it happened. So, but you know what? We got that dog back and we gave that dog to the next veteran. So, I mean, the dog didn't stay with us very long. If the dog gets rejected, we keep that dog. We have people who foster. We work with several trainers.
The hell with that foster and shit. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't think I could. I know people who do this. And I said, you're absolutely insane. You foster a dog. You fall in love with the dog. The dog becomes part of your family. And then you got to give it away?
It's hard.
Nope.
I'll never do it.
Nope.
We just recently partnered with the Bergen County Animal Shelter. And I was able to finally get down there last week or two. in Teterboro, or just take a little tour and meet a dog, Clementine, who's going to be going to a veteran. And she started her training, and I was talking to the staff there. I'm like, I don't know how you guys do what you do. And they were like, we don't understand how you do what you do. I said, no, no, no. I said, you're with this dog every single day for hours at an end. I can see the love that you have for this dog, but you know it's going to be going to a veteran. I don't want to let the dog go. And she says, yeah, it's tough, but we know that this dog is going to change somebody's life.
Mm-hmm. If you allow it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you allow that dog to change your life. Now, you've also had, I'm sure you've had many, many successes.
Yes.
Give me an example of how a dog who's been paired with a veteran has changed their life. Now, I'm assuming most of your therapy dogs are for post-traumatic stress, something of that nature. Tell me how they've changed lives.
We had a veteran in Tom's River, went down, I met the father, beautiful home in, not Tom's River, I'm sorry, down in Manahawkin. And I knew right away he was going to get approved. The son wasn't able to, it was the dog for the son, but he wasn't able to be there that day. And so driving back up on the parkway, I spoke with Arpie and Maureen. I said, this is a win-win. I said, beautiful home, right on the bay. I said, you know, he's approved, you know, as far as I'm concerned. They took my word. And then so I called the gentleman, and I said, hey, you're approved. We're working on it now. And hopefully maybe the next 5-6 weeks, you can have your four-legged friend, your forever dog. And he says, I'm over the moon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. About 20 minutes later, the father called me and said, you have no idea what this is going to do for me and my family and for my son. And for that, I thank you very much. That just hits you right in the heart.
That's what makes it all worth it.
It makes it all worth it. It does. And, you know, other success stories where, you know, the veteran will just say thank you and nothing else has to be spoken. You know, thank you.
So the training, I want to get into a little bit of the training process of these dogs. I don't know what the criteria is to be a therapy dog. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. So I've seen certain therapy dogs when it comes to post-traumatic stress, you know, especially for me personally, very early on, I had problems going into certain places. And I know military, it's ramped up. You know, certain vets, they're afraid to walk into a room, and I've seen other therapy dogs where they'll check the corners, which is kind of what they do when they clear a room. Mm-hmm. They'll check the corners. Is that something like this, what this is?
Our dogs are, you know, the psychiatric service dogs, usually it's one task, and it's usually blocking. So we'll train that dog to block.
Explain blocking.
So block, the dog would go between your legs. So you'd give the command. If you're in a large room of people, like you said, sometimes that triggers that for the human being. And the dog will just sit between the person's legs and kind of like just calm them down. So that's one of the main things that we use is blocking. Now, like that's for the psychiatric service dog. Emotional support dog, there's no such thing anymore.
They're all emotional support dogs.
But it's not legally, like psychiatric service dogs can go anywhere and everywhere. Emotional support dog, you can go on the internet and get a letter from like Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I know that for a fact. They sell kits.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Our pet therapy program, they go through training and then they're allowed to go to like hospitals and rehabs, but they can't go into hospitals. I mean, they can't go into like restaurants. They can't go on a plane. They can't go to like hotels where the psychiatric service dogs, they can bring them anywhere they want.
So I got to go on a plane in a couple of weeks. What are the chances that I could be approved for this program? I'm not a vet, but I would love to be traveling with a dog.
Well, we also help first responders as well.
So it started with vets.
It started with It started with veterans and first responders.
Okay, so it worked both.
Yeah, we were doing both, and you know we weren't really getting a lot from our first responders, EMS, fire, police. So we kind of took that away from like print. But like Arpie says all the time, someone comes to me, comes to us, we're going to help them.
Right.
Like we're going to do whatever we can possibly do. So we do have a first responder who their dog right now is actually in training, and so is going to a gentleman who's a cop.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And, that was one of the things that during my times that was never offered to me. It was never even, I know I had a dog, and my dog was the best in the world. But just to give you an idea about my dog when I went through my shooting, listen to this. So my dog was a hunting dog. I'm not a hunter, but when we got from the breeder, they bred the dogs to be hunting dogs. So, and there's a protocol that they go through, loud bangs and stuff like this to make sure they're okay with all that stuff. My dog, thunder and lightning storms, stay perfectly still. If fireworks were going off, perfectly still. So after my shooting and things in my brain started to go haywire, I started to be very afraid of thunder and lightning, very afraid of fireworks, any loud bangs, anything like that. Guess what? So did my dog. My dog never shook during those things. All of a sudden, she starts shaking. And she was cool, though. I mean, she would sit right next to me. Whenever something bad was happening outside, or storm or fireworks, she'd sit right next to me. But she picked up on my behavior. Now, is there any fear of the dogs, after they're trained, picking up on some of the anxiety that these veterans or first responders have?
Yeah, I mean, there is that, fear. I haven't seen it. But dogs pick up on every little thing. Mm-hmm. They're just like children. They pick up on everything.
Yeah, they do.
They watch everything.
If they could talk, the first word would probably be a curse word.
Yeah, so they, I mean, we haven't experienced that yet, but I'm sure it happens and we just don't know it.
I guess what I'd be afraid of is the dog regressing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would be healthy for either. Hypothetical situation would be one of your veterans or first responders calls you up and say, "Hey, listen, my dog's getting real anxious, real nervous when this happens." What would you do in that case?
We would direct them to the trainer who trained that dog. And so the trainer would then give them a call and meet with them and figure out if there's a solution on how to stop that dog from doing that. Mm-hmm. Maybe they just need a refresher in training.
That's what, Yeah, I mean, so you're always there. You're as the dog is their forever partner. You're forever there.
That's our goal. That's what I want to be. Yeah, I want to be there for them as long as they want us to be in their lives. Like I said, I mean, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, but that's their choice. Mm-hmm. Like, I listen. I have a long list of people that we've given dogs to, and I've called them, checked in with them, not every single week, but every couple months or weeks or whatever. Hey, how's the dog doing? Blah, blah, blah. How are you doing, most importantly? They seem to like that phone call. None of them told me to don't call me ever again. But then you're also getting the other side where they're calling me. So, like, I'm not always the one reaching out. It's kind of back and forth.
Have you ever had one of those vets who you gave those dogs to want to get involved in Operation K9 Beethoven?
Yeah, I mean, we have one veteran who helps us out, and he volunteers for us when he can. He has a dog named Sophie who's a boxer, and he lives all the way down South Jersey.
Because one thing about first responders and veterans, they're service doers.
Yes.
Okay? And that's how they show their affection. It's their love language, let's say. So for myself, and I'll take something like church, okay? The way I serve in church is I serve them. I do things for them because that's how I show my gratitude. And I know there's a lot of first responders and vets out there. So it would make perfect sense where, you have somebody who is a drug addict. Well, when they get clean, they want to become drug addiction counselors.
Yeah.
Because they're service doers.
Yeah.
Now, that it would make perfect sense. And now, all of a sudden, where you start out with a couple people, now all of a sudden, your family grows. And if you have a satisfied customer, they're going to tell 3 people. But if you have a dissatisfied customer, they'll tell 10. That's the downside to it.
Yeah, I mean, so we have that one veteran who does, outreach for us, helps us when he needs. And we also have another gentleman. We partnered up with another organization in Jersey called the New Jersey Veterans Network. And we've known them for a couple of years, and we just recently partnered up with them. And so that gentleman, Doc, he has a therapy dog as well. And he goes to all our events. We go to all of his events. We help each other out. So he does a lot of work for us, and we also do a lot of work for them. So since we've started this, we've really grown. And we have about on our the pet therapy program, probably about 10 or 12 dogs. We go to all different, motorcycle runs. We do all kinds of fundraising events, and they all want the dogs to be there.
Well, so
know?
that's
Veteran resource networking places.
if you go to motorcycle runs, you'll see a large contingency of vets, and the reason for that is those motorcycle clubs. When you see like the wild ones with Marlon Brando, they were all World War II vets.
Yeah.
They took their motorcycles home, and that's where they all sort of grouped up. And it's just continued. It's the weirdest thing in the world. Motorcycles and vets go together like peanut butter and jelly.
They are the most giving people. Mm-hmm. I mean, they really truly are. I mean, they're always about charity. And we've done a lot of those motorcycle runs, and like I said, they love to give.
Yeah,
which is great.
So what's the costs involved? So, you're a nonprofit 503c.
503, yeah.
503. I don't know. We're 501 with ours, but I don't know the difference. To be honest with you, but you're a 503c charity, so you rely on your giving. In
Yes.
order to...
So donations and merchandise sales.
Right.
So from start to finish, from rescuing that dog, putting that dog through testing and for the vet and stuff, so start to finish, it's about $7,000
Wow.
per dog.
Wow.
And so we've been so blessed and so lucky that we've had so many fundraisers over the years and people giving, other organizations giving to us. And, we're also about giving back to them as well, so it's about $7,000 per dog, and there's no out-of-money pocket expenses that come out of the veteran. So all the money that we make in donations and merchandise sales and hitting the pavement and going to those shows and going to those motorcycle runs and, selling our merchandise on the weekends,
Knowing that the merchandise is going to this cause. You're not just selling it so you can advertise.
No, we're selling it so that money can go to, of course we want some advertising.
Of course, but
but it's it's also that all that money.
It's not gratuitous advertising.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not. It's T-shirts with our logo on it and everything we do. We're all volunteers. Myself, RP Maureen, the entire pet therapy program. Those people are amazing. They take up their weekends and they go to places. During the week after work, they're going to hospitals and meeting with residents there at the nursing home or the rehab centers. So it is very time consuming, but it's also a wonderful feeling to help somebody.
It always is. And that's where the true meaning of the human life begins, is when and that's why dogs are always happy, because they're always helping people.
Yeah.
And once humans start picking up on that stuff, they'll get it. They'll get it.
They will. I mean, I think I said it earlier. I said to you off camera that these nursing homes and these veterans homes that we go to, you're walking down the aisle, walking down the thing, and they're like, a little upset and everything. They put their head up and they see the dog. They don't know our names. They know the dog's names.
They know the dog's names.
Like you said earlier, walking down the street. It's, and that's what it's all about, seeing the smiles, seeing the sadness. I like to say happy tears. Mm-hmm. And seeing them, because they probably had dogs too growing up or when they were raising their families, and because they're in the situation that they're in, they can't have an animal. So we bring it to them.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
So I always wanted to bring my dog. I got a friend who's a World War II vet, D-Day vet, Battle of the Bulge vet. I always want to bring my dog down to him. He's such a great guy. Met the president the other day when he went to Normandy for the 80th, which was kind of, he'll turn 101 on September 4th.
My grandfather was in Normandy.
Yeah,
Navy,
and they didn't have any help. So I've said this a couple times on this show. We've had it's 400 and some odd years of peace in recorded history. So that's a lot of wars. That's a lot of death. That's a lot of trauma. And how people dealt with it, usually in unhealthy ways. I'm surprised that it didn't take longer for somebody to figure out this connection, because dogs have been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And I'm just surprised it's taken until, these organizations like yours, probably 30 years.
30, 40.
Yeah, 30, 40 years.
A little less, yeah.
And but what a great homage to your father, that you're now able to give back to veterans You know, it's you always try to honor those people that are special to you in your life, and that's pretty much what this is, right?
Yeah, it's you know, just to help people.
Yeah.
I mean, our veterans and active and retired, they're going to war for us. The least we can do is say thank you.
Yeah.
Let me help you, because you're the reason why we're here today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're the reason why we have the freedoms that we have that other places don't have. So, I listen. I always grew up, wanting to help people, wanting to help veterans, and my father was that way too. He wanted to help his fellow veteran, his fellow man and woman. So I kind of learned it from him.
Yeah, the lessons, you're taught both good lessons and bad lessons from your parents. Unfortunately, I was taught some bad lessons from my parents, but I tried not to carry them on to my own children. But one of the things my children, I'm very, very, I watch my children around my dogs because they've had dogs their entire life. And I watch how they react to the dogs. And that's how I know they're gonna eventually, they'll have their trips and their falls, but eventually they're gonna turn out to be good people because they treat that dog as if she is their sister. And they make sure they say good morning to her, they make sure they say good night to her, make sure that they give her some love when they come in the door. And she's always the first one at the door, unless she's sleeping. She likes to sleep a lot. So I think that's the mark of any good person. So if you had a crystal ball and you wanted Operation K9 Beethoven to be this, what do you think it would be ultimately?
I want it to become a place where veterans feel that they can come to us. And, it's also maybe a goal that someday I'm out of business. Meaning that
we don't need these dogs?
The government does more than they should. They don't do much.
No, the VA,
Okay.
I hear, is very, very bad.
And I think, our government, our VA, has to do more. And I was actually having a conversation with somebody a couple weeks back that, the VA doesn't have these resources. We've tried to, contact them, and they don't take our phone calls. Is there ways that we can help? So for us, it's word of mouth. That's how we get to our veterans. It's one veteran saying, "Oh, I got this from Operation K9 Beethoven. Maybe you can do it too." Why isn't the resources there?
You
want to
know? You want to know why?
It's money.
Yeah.
It's time.
It's they do just enough.
Just to get by.
Just to get by. They do just enough. They're not really interested in healing. They're interested in doing just enough so they're not culpable of any bad side effects. And that's an unfortunate thing. Yeah. But one of the guys that I want to hook you up with is a guy named AJ Luna. We've had AJ in here. AJ, his nonprofit finds housing for veterans. Nice housing. Okay. He at one point his shining achievement is in Bergen County when he was head of Veterans Affairs for Bergen County. He had no homeless veterans. All right, so it was a big deal. Now he does. He's last I talked to him, he was head of operations for Veteran Affairs for Fairleigh Dickinson University.
Okay.
And that's my alma mater, so we have that little connection. But he's a very, very strong. He's a veteran himself. He's a very, very strong resource. And I think as far as getting the name out and doing the little extra, I think that's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be able to expand.
Mm-hmm.
We do service New Jersey, New York, metro area, Pennsylvania. Who's to say if we're ever going to go national? I don't know.
But as long as you're helping that one veteran, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. I would like to stay small. We have a small team. Our team has grown, obviously, over the years, but
and it will continue to grow the more good you do.
Yeah, we just want to help people. We want to. That's my thing. I just want to help people and try to do the best as I can, so that we can make sure that our veterans, active and retired, know that we're there for them.
So, Brian, we're coming to the end of this thing here. Let's throw out some plugs first before we wrap this up. Why don't you give the website out again and any social media links? Sure. I want everybody to find you.
So it's OperationK9Beethoven.com. That's Operation K, the letter K, number 9.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We have YouTube little channel thing where our videos are and what have you. And then we also have Instagram, TikTok. So we have it all. It's OperationK9Beethoven.com and Facebook as well.
And if you're watching the show and you find our social media, we're connected on there as well.
Yes.
So you'll be able to find it that way. Or there'll also be a lower third below you, and it'll be in the show notes too. So anybody in need, they can contact you through there.
They can contact us through the website at Operation K9 Beethoven, and if any of your listeners are willing to make a donation, they can go to our website, or if they want to buy a T-shirt, they can go to our website as well.
And I'll be sporting my Operation K9 Beethoven T-shirt very shortly.
Very nice.
Probably tomorrow. So we're coming to the end of this thing here, and we always complete the show in much the same way every time. Now, you have witnessed a lot of suffering within the veteran community and the first responder community, and you chose to take a stand and change that paradigm. But it's had to teach you something. Now, what is seeing that suffering and being able to do something about it taught you?
It's taught me that we need to help more people, and it's been a very gratifying experience because I like to see happy tears. There's nothing better than when you know you impacted somebody's life, but they've impacted your life more than they will ever know. So seeing the smiles and the happy tears and the faces light up is why we do what we do at Operation K9 Beethoven, helping veterans one paw at a time, as well as our first responders.
Did you ever feel selfish a little bit? So things that I do where I'm helping, somebody will come up and say, hey, you helped me out during that stuff. And I kind of want to tell them, I'm like, you don't understand. It's kind of for me because it makes me feel good to help somebody else.
Never. No, I mean I have my moments when I'm by myself or
Well, no, when you get that little rush of when you help somebody, you're like,
oh,
I did something
yeah,
positive
you do,
today.
you
Yeah.
do. I would be lying if I didn't, but yeah, it makes me smile. It really truly does, and we're not here for the accolades. We're not here for the patting on the back, and it's just we just want to help people. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, it sounds like you're doing it. And you're doing a good job at it, and I look forward to making sure. I want to make sure I'm kept in the loop of anything
Absolutely.
you're doing, any events that you're running. If you ever need me, you call on me because since you've been in here, you are now family.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man.
Brian, thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming in, and I can't wait to see where you go.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, the suffering of K9 Beethoven with Brian Reyngoudt, and let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Today may be forever, but tomorrow's never promised. Unconditional love heals. Crying happy tears is very okay. Homages can come in many ways, but most importantly, dogs take time, but trust me, they're worth it. And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We're now on Rumble. And, of course, go to Mike's OnlyFans channel. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And, of course, follow the Suffering Podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.